We are going live. Almost there, I think. Setting up for YouTube. All right. So, welcome. Today is September the 3rd. I am on my own today on the Option Genius show. Matt is playing sick. Uh, I think he's got a fever. He's not playing sick. He actually is sick. Um, but we got a bunch of stuff going on. Today we're going to be talking about the markets. We have some questions that have come in, so I'm going to answer a couple of those. We are going to be talking about a fear that I have. It's a financial fear. It's the biggest financial money fear I have. I wanted to share my thoughts with you. I hear some people talking about it, but not enough. So we'll talk about that. And then we're going to be introducing the September Smackdown Challenge, in which case all of you get to participate. So that's going to be fun. I'll give you the rules for that and tell you how to start, how to participate, how to get started. And we're going to be tracking that through the end of the month. So that is going to be fun. And we actually have a cash prize. So somebody's going to be winning something, real money. All right. So let's get started. Today, the markets were up nicely and they have all basically turned around. The S&P is only up like 4 points, which is nothing. The Nasdaq, which was up about 1.5%, is now up only 0.3%. Gold is still up 1%. VIX is at 17. And see, Bitcoin's at 113, and the Dow is actually down 0.5% today. The RUT is almost down 0.5% as well. So markets are mixed. I do have some egg on my face because on the Friday show, I did say that we're going to be coming in on Tuesday, the first of the month, and we're going to have an up day. And we did not. Market was down pretty much, pretty bad yesterday. We had a market power signal go off for most of the day, and congrats to those who took the trade. That was a pretty easy winner. Most of you guys that took the trade did get out in the morning, almost very close to the open. So that was an easy trade, and that thing just keeps killing it. So that was great. Market were down, they were up today, and then now we're giving it back. But some stuff is still up. We did have some news out of Google. They had a big issue with their antitrust. Um, and it was ruled that they are a monopoly, but then the court said, "Oh yeah, it's okay. You don't really have to do anything about it." It's like, "Oh, what? That's not how it's supposed to work." Um, but hey, who knows what's going on, right? The administration is playing nice with big business. So maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was a nice judge. Who knows? Google's up today, hitting a new 52-week high, maybe hitting an all-time high. I'm not sure, but they are killing it. The AV stocks or the AI stocks seem to be doing well today. Broadcom's earnings are going to be coming out soon. Broadcom is AVGO. It continues to move higher. Um, and yeah, so there's good news and bad news all over the markets, and we're just we're playing it the way we can. Now, in these types of markets, we like to sell options, and when you sell options, you don't really pick a direction. You have to sometimes, but what we want to do is not pick and not choose and not have to predict where the stock is going to go. We want to choose and look at and try to predict where the stock is not going to go. And in that case, then that's where we put our trade. And if we're right, which we are most of the time, then the trade wins out. And we can make a pretty decent profit. So we'll talk about that in the questions coming up. But it just goes to show, like, even in this market, things are going up, things are going down. We're going into September, right? Scariest month of the year. um how do I position it? Well, I have I in the last few episodes of the show, I've said that I am bullish going into the Fed meeting. um Now, we did have a jobs report that came out today, and the jobs number, available openings, was lower than expected, meaning there are fewer companies hiring than what everybody expected. That's bad for people who are looking for a job, and that's bad for the labor market. And so that gives the Fed more reason to cut rates. Makes sense. So, Fed has already said most likely they're going to cut, and that's what we're going to get. And the big question is, okay, is it going to be 25? Is it going to be 50? Probably 25. And then who knows after that? Then we don't know. Depends on what Powell says. But different Fed governors are saying different things. Some are saying 50, some are saying no, nothing. So we'll see how it goes, but we're probably going to get a quarter point cut. Until then, I am still bullish, but I am bullish on the overall market, and I'm not really sure about any individual stock. So I am cutting back on some of the option trades that I have on, and I still have a couple long positions in stocks that I think are still positioned well for a rally. Okay. And so I'm holding on to those, but I am also lowering my stock positions overall just to be safe for September. If you're an option seller and you don't have to trade in September and October, I would probably say to take the month off. You could take 2 months off a year. You take 1 month off a year, take off September, come back in October. November and December, usually the two best months for selling options. So I would probably, keep my powder dry and then load up in November and December. That usually works. Doesn't work every time, of course. You can't predict the future, but if you look at the past, that's kind of what happened in the past. And so that's kind of what we can look for this year. That's what I'm going to be doing. And of course, you have to be able to adjust and make changes if what you expect doesn't work out. So keep that in mind. Don't just go all bullish and forget, and then just like close your eyes and not check. Pay attention. So that's kind of what we're looking at the markets. I wanted to go over. We had some questions come in, so I'm going to go ahead and take a look at those. Let me move this over here and get to the questions that we had. Woo! I have so many tabs open. This is ridiculous. I'm surprised my computer's still working. We take computers for granted. We take the internet for granted. We take electricity for granted. We're so lucky. We are so lucky. Oh man. Uh, okay. So first question I have here: how much capital does one need to be able to have an alternative income, monthly income of about $3,000 using your strategies? Okay. So good question, right? Basically, like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. I need to make 3,000 a month. Can I do it? And how much do I need? Great question. Might be the wrong question because it's kind of like assuming that you are going to just jump in and like month one, you're going to start making money, right? And it's like automatic. No, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. It does take some time to learn. It does take some experience. And in the beginning, most people do lose money. So that you have to keep in mind. Like, hey, it's going to take you a few months to get some experience and to learn. And actually, the funny thing is, we were just talking about this yesterday because we are building out something called the club. Now, it's not going to be called the club, but we'll call it the club. It'll be the something club, the trading club, the option club, the passive trading club, something like that. Not sure the name on it yet. But we were basically taking a look and being like, look, somebody comes in to us and we want to take them from wherever they are now and hold their hand and help them to get to wherever they want to be. How do we do that? What do they need to know? What are the steps? How long does it take? And we have to map out this whole journey because that's what the product is going to be. It's like the biggest thing we've ever done. It's probably going to incorporate all the products that we have. So everything's going to be combined into one offering. And it's like you get everything you need. There's nothing else that you need. Everything is included to get you from where you are now to where your goal is. And now, obviously, the person who asked this question, their goal is to make $3,000 a month. That's their short-term goal. Maybe, once they get to 3,000, maybe they're like, oh, okay, this is great. I can go to 6,000. I can go to 12,000. Okay, good. Keep going. But for now, his goal is to make 3,000. So how do we get them from where he is now, maybe which is like zero, right, in terms of option selling income, to get to $3,000? Now, that is his question, and that's what the club is supposed to help you with. And that's what we were thinking about yesterday. That's what we've been planning on for a long time as we're developing this. Um, in terms of time, it depends on the person. But we are breaking it down and I'm going through it level by level. So what we're doing is we're taking the option continuum, has 10 different levels, and we're saying, okay, like this person, I don't know how much they know, but they're probably starting at level zero. Okay, so to go from level zero to level one to level two to level three to level four, and then if you're making 3,000 a month, that's doing pretty well. That's 36,000 a year. You're not doing that's not bad. That's really good, right? And if you can make 3,000 consistently, then you can make 4,000 and 5,000 and 10,000. So, to make money consistently, I would probably say you're at like level six and a half, maybe seven. And so how long does it take to get from somebody from zero to seven, right? Um, that's what we're working on. So it's not overnight. It might take a few months. But I think it's definitely doable within a year's time frame if they put in the time. And so what I was thinking of is that if you can put in 10 hours a week, if you can give me 10 hours a week, I can get you there within a year, I think. And we're gonna see. We're gonna do it with people in the club. We're gonna hold their hands. We're gonna take them. They're gonna have a coach, and we're gonna gonna go and do it. So back to the question. Um, how much money do I need to make 3,000 a month? I did actually answer this in the past. If you go back to the Option Genius podcast, episode number 11, one of the oldies, episode number 11, let me see what it's called. It's called How Much Do I Need to Make X? Episode 11 of the Option Genius podcast. You can find it on all the podcast places. And you can also go to our website, optiongenius.com, and find it there. So, how much do I need to make $3,000? All right. So it depends on the strategy, depends on how aggressive you are, depends on how much money you want to put at risk, really. Um, so for example, we take a look at if you're in our oil options program, okay, the goal there is to make 10% a month. Do we hit it every month? No. Do we hit it some months? Yes. Do we lose money? Yes. So there's no guarantees, but the goal is 10%. And we've had students that have hit it. They'll tell you that. We have videos and interviews and whatnot of people that are actually doing it. We have people that are saying, hey, 10%, that's 120% a year. That's more than double my money. I don't need that much. I would like to be more conservative and I'm gonna go with 5%. And so we have had guys who I've interviewed who have said, yeah, I make 5% a month every month. And it's pretty safe and conservative in their eyes. That's their opinion, right? And so is 10% doable? Yes. Is it doable every month? Probably not. What is a good return? Well, I mean, if you go in the market and you ask anybody, you go to a normal person, you go to the bank, you go, hey, what's a good return on your money? And they'll be, oh, I'd be happy with 12 or 10%, 10 or 12%, double digits, 1% a month. They'd be super excited. You go to the stock market last year, about 20%. The year before, 20%, 20%. In the future, though, they are saying that the returns will be less because over time, the stock market has only returned about 8 to 9%, right? So if it's hitting 20, 20, 20, and there's going to be years when it's not going to hit 20 and it's going to hit less and maybe negative, so that the average comes out to about 8 or 9%. So let's say 10% for the stock market. That's a good return. So that's a pretty good return. 20% would be an amazing return. I would say 30% would be a great return in a year, right? If you are aiming for 5%, that's 60%. I aim for 10% in my portfolio every month. I don't hit it. If I hit 5%, I'm still super excited and super happy because 5% a month is 60 a year. That's really, really good. You don't need that much. There was another video that I done where, I wanted to see if I was going to be a billionaire in my lifetime. And so I took the amount of money that I was investing in my portfolio and I decided, okay, if I live to 120 years old, because that's what I think I'm going to do. I think I'm going to live to 120. That's my goal. And we could talk about that on a future show about all the technology and the health advances that are coming. They're very exciting. But if I made 20% a year and I lived to 120 years old, could I hit $1 billion? and I'm starting with, let's say we're starting with less than $1 million, 20% returns for, let's say, 70 years, almost 50. So almost 70 years, that would be well over $1 billion. Yeah. So do you need a crazy amount? No. So if we were trying to make 20%, and like Warren Buffett, he averaged 22% a year, and he became the world's richest man at that point with those returns. So 20%, I would say, is a really, really good number to use as a goal, especially when you're starting out. Now, um, eventually you can get to three, four, five. Eventually, some months will be more. Some months you're going to lose. So you have to take that into consideration. You also have to take taxes into consideration. So I don't know what your tax rate is going to be. But if we're not talking about taxes, if we're only talking about, gains from there, I would say if you're looking at 20%, right? So $3,000 divided by point 0.2, you need 15 grand. So 15 grand. What? I didn't do it right. Sorry. That would be a year, right? So let's say, okay, we want to make, we'll round it off, we'll say 2%. Okay, I'll give you that. So 3,000 divided by 0.02, negative 0.02 is $150,000. So safe amount, I would say, if you wanted to make 3% and you were going to make 2% a month, you would need about $150,000. Now, we do have on the OptionGenius website, we have a investment calculator, where you can plug all these numbers in and it'll calculate everything for you. It starts off with, hey, how much money, to replace your income if you want to retire, like how much money do you want and how much money do you have? How much money can you add every month? Because that's another question too. Like if you can add money every month, then you can start with a smaller amount and then build up. Because you don't have to start with 150,000. Most people start with a lot less. But if that was your goal, 3,000, and you can make 2%, which is that's the, I mean, if you're doing like naked puts, that is the amount that we're aiming for. You can make a little bit more. If you have 150,000, you can have an account with portfolio margin, and so your returns can be even greater because the margin is more leveraged if you know what you're doing. So there's so many different ways to answer this. I would probably say start with what you have, right? Don't worry about what your goal is. I mean, you want to get up there to it, but it's going to take you some time to learn the stuff anyway. So really, you start with what you have, you pick one strategy, you paper trade it, you back test it, you get really good at it. Then you start off with maybe one contract, two contracts. As you get confidence, you scale it up. And then once you can see that, hey, look, I am consistently making, 2%, 1%, 3% a month, that's when you can scale it up. That's when you can add more money. If you don't have it, there are ways to get it, right? If you have it, that's great. I wouldn't put the money in until you were consistent because it's like you're going to work, right? If you're learning how to write, then you don't want to submit your book until you're actually writing pretty well. So in the beginning, it's just going to be scribbles and nonsense, right? And so eventually it's going to get good, but you got to keep practicing until you get good. Then you put the money in and then you scale it up. So that's the answer to that question. Hopefully that was suitable. But really, I mean, I don't want to give anybody false hope. I don't want to say, yeah, you can make 10% a month, you can make 20% a month. You can. Are you going to? It's really hard for most people. Um, I know a few people, very few people that can make over 10% a month every month, month after month after month. But they're very good and they're 100% focused on their trading. 100% focused. So yeah, for most people, they don't want to do that. They don't want to put in the time. It takes years to get that good, years and years of 100% dedication. I have not even put in the amount of hours that those people have put in to get that good. So, it depends on how much time you put in also. All right, next question. So I'm very interested in the 0 DTE, 1 DTE option strategy you have. I don't have much time to trade for long time during work hours. I don't have much time to come to the computer during the day. Please tell me the cost so I can test the program in my account with $10,000. Okay, so I think this person, obviously, they're talking about market power. That's the only thing we have right now. That's 1 DTE or 0 GTE. So yeah, he's talking about market power. Question is, I don't have much time during work to trade, and I cannot come to the computer much during the day. All right, so yeah, that's going to be a problem because when you're doing 1 DTE, 0 DTE, I mean, the market can shift on a dime, right? And you can look at the markets today. The NASDAQ was up 1.5%. Now it's up less than 0.3%. And that's in one day. And nothing happened. There was no big news. There was no nothing. It was just market was up and then it came back down. So you, if you're going to be in something that is so short in time, you're going to have to be able to access the computer. You're going to have to be able to either do it on your phone or your laptop or your iPad or whatever, but you're going to have to be able to check markets. You're going to have to be able to get alerts, and you're going to have to be able to make changes to your trades. Otherwise, you're going to end up losing money. There's in the short term, there's no like set it and forget it. I wish there was. Um, you know, because you just have to watch it. There's going to be something that comes up. And so I would say that in this situation, market power would not be for you if you don't have any time or much time at all to check markets. Because, I mean, you have to put the trade on during the day. You can't put it on after hours, right? You have to trade during the day. So the trade has to be put on during the day. If it gets in trouble, you have to know what to do and you have to adjust the trade. That's also during the day. And so we tried to give you everything in the program to make it as simple as possible. Like if you don't have a way to get alerts on your phone or from your broker, we have a system in our program that will alert you that, hey, SPX is getting close to, your strike. You might want to take a look. You might want to do something. So we do have, systems built in like that. We try to keep it, and I think about 95% of the trades they don't require much time at all. If you know what you're doing, you could put the trade on in like 3 minutes. But sometimes that 5% of the time you will have to do something. And so for that reason, I can't say that, if you have no time or you can't check, then it would be good for you. Um, I mean, now if you can go to the bathroom for like 5 minutes and check your phone on the bathroom and play with it there, then yeah, it's doable. But again, you have to know how to use your broker's app on the phone. You want to get good at it. You want to practice it. And then if you can get in and say, okay, I got this vertical trade, I need to place it. I can do it really quickly. Or, hey, I have this vertical trade and I need to exit and then I need to place another one. And that's basically all we're doing, right? We're putting one trade on, and if it doesn't work, we're getting out and then we're putting another one. So if you can do that really quickly, then it's up to you how fast you can do it and how much time you have. So, don't let me say, yeah, no, it's not going to work for you. But if you have no time at all, then no. Trading probably will not work. I mean, if that's the case, if you have basically no time at all, then I would say that we need to take it back and we need to say, okay, you know what? Um, we need to be using strategies that are longer term and more conservative. And so covered calls, dinky puts. That's where you're going to be. Um, if you can't check the markets at all. So in my retirement accounts, I do both. And most of the time, I don't check them until expiration. And so once a month, I can check, see how the stocks are doing, see how the trades are doing. If I need to put another trade on, something expired, I'll put another trade on. If something got assigned or whatnot, I'll deal with it. But it's a very low time process, right? And so that would be the strategies that I would point you to if you have no time at all. If you do have time, then yeah, market power is amazing, but it can take time. And again, the other thing is when you're in the trade, you're in the trade. It's in the back of your mind. So what you're doing when you're at work or whatever, if you're in a really important meeting, you can't be focused on two different things. So for that sense, I get it. It's not for everybody. Short-term trading is not for everybody. If you don't have any time at all, again, like I said, I would probably go and do the longer term strategies. Start off there, build up your assets, build up your net worth. And then when you have the ability to say, okay, yeah, now I'm really good at it. I know the strategies. I know how the trades work. I know how to manipulate the buttons on my broker's phone, on my broker's app. Sorry. Then you might say, okay, let me go do this. Because the other question was, how much is it? And market powers, it starts like at $100, right? The trial for the first 30 days is $100, not a big deal. Something you could try, but again, to answer your question, hopefully I did. Okay, and if you haven't known, I ramble sometimes. That's why I like Matt. Matt kind of like keeps me on point. I just keep going on and on, answer the same question like 5 times. All right, so those are the questions. Now, I wanted to talk about something that has been bothering me. Now, I'm calling it like my biggest money fear at the moment. Okay. Um, for most people, you fall in when it comes to money. Yeah, everybody falls into different categories, and so there's a person that doesn't have enough money, and the only thing on the top of their mind is, hey, I need to make more. They're struggling. Maybe the bills are bigger than the income, and I need to make more. So that's their whole mentality, their whole focus. Other people, they're doing well. Maybe they're living paycheck to paycheck. It's like, okay, what can I do? I can improve my skills. Maybe get to start a side job, or I can reduce my expenses. So they're looking also to get ahead. Luckily for me, I'm in the next bucket up, which is, hey, I got enough money. I have income. I have assets. Um, Now the main thing is, okay, how do I protect the money? How do I not lose the money? Of course, I want to make more. Um, but if I don't, I'm okay, right? As long as I don't lose. So it shifts. The thinking shifts from, okay, I gotta make to, oh, no, I don't want to lose. So the thinking shifts. So that's kind of where I'm at, just to tell you, where I'm coming from on this. But then, uh, okay, let me see. Sorry. So I'm in the library, and it's been a while, so the book's probably overdue. But I was there with my daughter, and she's checking out her books. So I went upstairs to the adult section, the business section, money section, all that stuff. And I'm looking around, and I found a couple books that seemed interesting, so I picked them both up. One of them was called "The Fort Turning is Here." The Fort Turning is here now. This is a book written by I'm not sure if they can called economists, but one of them, they sell newsletters. But I got turned on to them, or I was recommended by Tony Robbins. He recommended them somewhere, and um, so I picked up that book and I read it, and it was interesting. Didn't agree with everything, but I read that book, and then there was another book I picked up, which is the Myth of Money. So this is by Tatiana Kaufman. Um, and it's called The Myth of Money and Breaking Out of the Failing Financial System. That's what the book is called. Now, I did not think that these books were related, but it turns out that they are. They are talking about the same, well, they're talking about different things, but they ended up at the same conclusion. And so the Fort Turning book is very thick, and it's basically they go through the history of a lot of the past and the economies and decisions made by different administrations and what we're at now and what we're going and all this stuff, and their future predictions for the future. Now, this book, The Myth of Money, was written by a woman who grew up in a war-torn economy that had super high inflation. And so she writes about that. And then she writes about how that impacted her life and her upbringing and her thought process all through life. And then when she moved to the Western world or the United States, and then, how she has progressed and how she manages money and all that stuff. Um, but both of them came to the conclusion that you should be owning gold and you should be owning crypto. No, those were the conclusions of both. They're like, oh, this financial system is totally messed up. It's totally screwed. Um, yeah, the dollar's screwed. Just go buy all the gold you can and all the crypto you can, and you'll be okay. And that's what so the Turning book recommended gold. This book, Myth of Money, recommends crypto. So I was like, okay. But then I was like, what can I learn from this? And the thing that got me concerned was that the points that they were making were very similar, even though they came out and had different arguments. So the thing that I am most afraid of or concerned about with money is the value of the dollar and the dollar not being the world's economic currency or the reserve currency much anymore. Now, people do talk about this. Mostly it's newsletter writers. Um, the Main Street media or newspapers or whatnot, they don't really talk about it too much because it's a very long-term issue. It's not a short-term, it's not going to lead the headlines any day. And they have too much daily stuff to cover. But the long term, if the dollar is no longer the reserve currency, life as we know it will change forever. The reason that the United States after World War II has been so successful and advanced, and the Industrial Revolution and the Technological Revolution, all that stuff happened was because the dollar is the reserve currency. It just makes things so, so much cheaper, easier, simpler for us to do business here and to do business around the world. And basically, the reserve currency means that, if two countries are doing business amongst each other, right, they can exchange each other's currencies, but most of the time they're going to say, "Hey, let's just do business in dollars," and so they all have dollars in reserve. They all have dollars as their trading instrument. So they take their own currency, convert it into dollars, and then go buy whatever they want from another country, and they pay them with dollars, and then they have to go buy more dollars because they ran out of dollars. So that has helped the US, economy because it's so much cheaper for us than anybody else. We don't have to go exchange. We don't have to pay those fees and wait for the exchange to happen and all that stuff. And so the books, they go into, a little bit more detail about that kind of thing and why that is going to be a problem in the future. They're both predicting that the dollar will not be the reserve currency. I'm not as convinced. Currently, the dollar is still the reserve currency in about 68% of transactions around the world. And the closest currency behind us is the euro. China's currency is only at 2%. So, China's currency is not really a big player right now to take over the reserve currency, even though some people think it is. But and the euro won't either. But what we do have is we have China trying to usurp the dollar. Now, Biden, I think, messed up really big taking Europe or taking Russia off the SWIFT system. That kind of showed and kind of scared the whole world, even our allies, that hey, if they're going to cut, if they can, the US can just cut somebody out of the whole dollar reserve trading system, the way the world works, the economies work, the way money works, then they can do it to us too. So we need to find a different currency. We need to find somebody that's a currency that's not going to flake on us if they get crazy or we do something that the US government doesn't like. So, you have the BRICS nations, right, that have been trying to find their own currency. Um, they got like 32 members, and they have another 12 countries that have applied to be members. So they're almost close to 50 members, 50 countries that are looking to create a currency to usurp the dollar from the reserve currency. So that's not good. And then we had, Russia, North Korea, sorry, China, and India meeting this week, talking about working together, talking about, hey, let's thumb our nose at the US, which they're doing. So it's an interesting conundrum. China's getting stronger. Um, the US has been on a downside, on a decline for a long time. You can read Ray Dalio's book about this. Uh, to see what he thinks. But according to Ray Dalio, which is he was a hedge fund manager at Bridgewater, um, he goes into and does. I would probably recommend you his book than the two books that I mentioned earlier, to know really what's going on because his research is top notch and it's not biased, so to say. The Fork Turning book, kind of biased. They're writing newsletters. They want they want people to buy their newsletters. That's why they're selling books. They want you to buy their books, etc. But Ray Dalio is already a freaking billionaire. He doesn't care, right? He doesn't need the money. So he enjoys the research and figuring out how the world works. And so according to him, the U.S. empire is in decline and the China empire is rising, and eventually China is going to want to take over the top spot, and the only way that's going to happen is if there is a war. Now, that is something I am also concerned about, but it's not, that's my biggest fear in the future. Um, Not the dollar reserve, but this is my biggest money issue. The biggest fear I have is going to war, World War III. Not because of me, I'm already, almost 50. I'm not going anywhere, but just my boys are just getting into teenagers. And so for the next several years, they are going to be in draftable age. And so I'm not happy about that. So that's, you know, neither here nor there. But that's kind of where we're at. Um, why is this concerning me? Because if the dollar is not the reserve currency anymore, everything here is going to get more expensive. Inflation is going to increase. I mean, if we think that 7, 8% inflation that we had a couple of years ago is a lot, imagine 40%, 50%, 100%, 200%. It can happen, and it can happen very, very quickly if the dollar is not the reserve currency, because we have so much debt that if the dollar is not the reserve currency, the only way to pay the debt is going to be to inflate the dollar. And the governments know this. Everybody knows this. That's just what's going to happen. And so that's why the Fed, one of their mandates, they don't talk about the mandate, but their mandate, their third mandate, is to defend the dollar as the reserve currency. And it's important that they be left alone to do that. So, I'm one of the ones that would like, hey, Mr. Trump, Mr. President, let's keep the Fed non-political, keep them separate, let them do their job. So far, they've been doing a great job, um, and let's keep it that way. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. That's my fear. If we do, inflation, if it comes, it will change the way we live. A hamburger will not be, whatever it is now, $5. It's going to be 15, 20. And not only does inflation make things more expensive, but eventually it makes things scarce because people just stop producing because the inputs keep growing up in cost. And so they just stop producing. And then we're out of stuff. We're out of bread. We're out of oil. We're out of electricity. We're out of things. And then, yeah, we could go backwards in time. So we could go easily from the top of the world, the richest country in the world, to, number 20, number 30, because of the debt that we have. And it won't be fun. It won't be pretty. It'll be something that we've never experienced in our lifetimes. And it's not something I want my kids to experience or their kids. But it's going to happen eventually. Just hopefully it doesn't happen soon. So that's the thing. That's what I'm concerned about. Just wanted to share that, give you something to think about. Nothing that we can ourselves do about it except be prepared. And the two books I mentioned, they say be prepared by buying gold and buying crypto. So both of those are good ideas. Diversified portfolio, right? So keep that in mind. All right, what else we got? Okay, so now we have the rules for the Smackdown challenge. Okay, so last month, me and Matt did the Smackdown, which is we both picked 3 stocks that we thought were going to do really well for the month. And then we tracked them all month and we saw which combination, his three or my three, did better. And Matt actually kicked my pants. My one of my stocks was down like 25%, so it was horrible. It was over. It was over very quickly. But this time we're going to do it with all of you. So the rules are at the bottom of this video, there is a comment section. Okay. So we would like everybody to pick one stock that they think is going to do the best percentage wise for the month of September. And whoever picks the stock that has the best performance for the month of September will win a prize of $100. So yes, we're actually giving away real money, putting some money behind this. So yeah, we'll give you $100 if you win. It has to be for U.S. residents only, so that's the only caveat. But no purchase necessary, any of that stuff. And if we're going to go because of the comments, they show up based on who goes first, second, third. So if you see, so if you have an idea, like let's say, hey, you want to pick Netflix, right? So instead of just going and typing in Netflix, go look at what the other comments are. And if somebody's already posted Netflix before, then you need to pick a different one because we're not going to split it. It's whoever said it first, they get credit for that stock, and you only get to pick one. So don't be giving like a list of like 50 different stocks. You only get one stock. So on each line, there should only be one stock. Otherwise, you're going to be disqualified for all of your picks. We're not going to give you like, oh, he's the first. You gave us three names, so the first one was no. If you do more than one, you'll be disqualified completely. So just pick one stock, put it in the comments of this video, and then we will record it. And then every week and every show, we'll go through and we'll see how's everybody's doing. And then at the end of the month, whoever has done the best, hey, you get $100 for nothing, right? So basically, it's just for fun, just to see how the market's doing. It's to encourage people to pay attention and be involved in the markets, even if you're not. So, if you're watching and you've never traded an option before, then this is one way to get an interest in the market. And you can, refer people, tell other people, tell your friends, hey, you want to, chance at $100? Pick a stock and put the symbol in, right? Who knows? You might win. So there we go. That is the rules of the Smackdown. If there's anything else, we'll let you know if I'm forgetting any of the other rules. But really, it's just pretty simple. So whoever pick a symbol, put it in there, be the first one. If not, pick a different symbol. And whoever has got the highest percent at the end of the month, based on when we start. So tomorrow we'll be making the list. So put your symbol in now, put it in today, and then tomorrow when we make the list, that'll be final, and then we'll go from there. So that is the Smackdown. That's the rules. Let me see here. Okay, any comments? No, I've already taken care of those. So yeah, let's see what the market's doing now. Market's down even a little bit more than before, basically flat. So on the S&P/X. So it's a good day for theta sellers, right? And we got some theta decay, but nothing really going on. So, all right, folks. Thank you for joining me for another edition of the Option Genius Show. We will be back on Friday. Same time, same channel. Talk to you soon.